when we were here 50 years ago, and noticing that it's rather radically different in many ways from the way it is today. So myself in particular, I haven't been back in 50 years. So I was like,
welcome back!
Where am I? But I'll be back sooner, not to worry, not to worry. So we just started, well, what do you remember? What do you remember? So each of us has a little recollection that we're going to do. And the first has to do with the rules that we lived under here. And somebody said, oh, we got to wear, coveralls. And we're like, wow, 2 legs? That was really cool because we were pretty much in dresses, hose, which were those things that you wore on your legs that made your legs look sleek, supposedly. And there were 2 of them. It wasn't like one connected, the way the more recent version was. And we wore hats and we wore gloves. And we were just, oh, so special, The rules were for behavior, for dress, for dormitory, and frankly, it was called in loco parentis, which meant basically the college was an extension of your parental system, right? And it wasn't that much different here, frankly, than it was in a lot of colleges. But starting out with the rules, we've got a discussion about a dorm rule that Pat, who, by the way, made these wonderful ID tags, which everybody's going to compliment us on, so that was a little aside. Anyway, Pat has something to tell us about the dorms.
We had to be in the dorm by 8 and in bed with lights off by 10, except on Friday and Saturday when we could be up until midnight. And I, as the dorm president, went around to every room and checked with my trusty flashlight to make sure that everyone was in their bed with their light out.
Pretty amazing, huh? Pretty amazing. It sounds almost quaint, as a matter of fact. But whenever there were lots of rules, of course, people always find a way around them, especially inventive Cotty women. So Sharon has a memory, a wardrobe memory for us.
Well, I was a music major and was in the choir. And every Wednesday night we had chapel. And it was not, what's the word I want? It was not voluntary. There you go. So they were telling you that we had to wear skirts and we didn't have to wear the hats and the gloves, thank goodness. But dinner that night was always very dressed up. And then we had to go straight from dinner to chapel and put on those old choir robes, and some of you may have never even seen them, but they're made out of polyester and heavy and hot. So some of us decided that Wednesday dinner wasn't really all that important. And while everybody else was at dinner, we put on our shorts and t-shirts and found a raincoat or something to put over it. And ran over to the chapel and put on a robe so when everybody came, we were comfortable. We weren't hot and sweaty. We got through it with our shorts.
Things I learned, I never knew about that, pretty fascinating. Well, technology, there was some in those days. But, well, as Kathy was saying about fire had been invented. And indeed, we did have telephones, but I think there was one in each dorm. And as I recall, you signed up on Saturday or Sunday night, and you would take turns calling home to your folks. So somebody long-winded in front of you, you're, hey, come on, I want to get on the phone. But there was also a problem with television. And Patty has a really good story about another inventive Cotty student and how they handled the television problem.
Robbie had a TV, it was color. Reeves had a TV, it was color. PEO Hall had no TV at all. One of my seniors, Kay Gaywicki, known as Quick, took it into her head, went downtown, bought color console TV set and charged it to the college.
The great thing about that story is she later became a judge. So I think her sense of justice was developing as she was a student at this camp. Now Kay has a little interesting memory about students and the way we were used as helpers in those days.
As one of the later classes mentioned, we survived crossing Austin Street, but we survived it crossing, carrying beer boxes full of books from the old library in Main Hall to the new Blanche Skiff Ross Memorial Library.
So the problem there is somebody should have been unionizing us, right? We were taken advantage of. So fundraisers, we've been hearing about the defining moment and the challenge, all weekend. Great fundraising effort, and we're all supporting it. But it wasn't new recently that Cotty was doing fundraisers. In effect, Marilyn and Kathy have a rather interesting story about how they carried out a fundraiser in the 60s.
We were raising money for World University Service, and every suite had a project. Our project was to have a spaghetti dinner. So we had metal cabinets in the kitchen. So we took our drawers out of the cabinets. We put water and spaghetti noodles in them, put them on our little burners, and we cooked our spaghettis. Thank goodness we had a turkey roaster to put our spaghetti sauce in, or I have no idea how we would have fixed that. Maybe that's why they all wanted us all to have those typhoid shots before we came here. But we sure raised a lot of money.
Along with that, you can't just have spaghetti. So we bought bread and buttered it, and we had tin foil. Wrap the bread up, turn the radiators up, and put the bread up. We had lots and lots of people. I think it was 300. Marilla said it wasn't, but it was a lot of people. So we had to wash the dishes because we couldn't afford to spend money on lots of paper plates, and also we'd gather dishes from everybody. We washed those in the bathtub.
So what were you raising the funds for? What were you raising? World University Services, and I think they said part of the Y, and they raised about $300. So actually it sounds to me like they would be candidates for Hell's Kitchen or Top Chef. So another area of difference was the transportation. Nowadays everybody's driving cars around. We did have airplanes, like Kathy would have said, we did have airplanes, but they weren't the primary mode of transportation. Mostly we would ride trains and buses. And I know when my parents brought me here, they dropped me, goodbye, goodbye, and turned around and went home. But they drove me all the way from Colorado. And when we had Christmas break, I at least, and I think many of us would take buses up to Kansas City. Then you got on a train and you rode like for a day to get to Colorado. Then you reversed it coming back the other direction. So it's pretty obvious that things have changed radically with everybody with their own cars and being able to do exactly what they want to do. But I do have to second Judy's motion here. And that is, while we've talked about lots of changes in the last 50 years and some radical ones, the important things are still exactly the same, as was evidenced at last night's serenade. The music, the enthusiasm, the love, the friendships, it felt to us just like it did in 1963. No change there, and we're glad. So to close, what else? Music. We're going to sing for you a song we sang in the dining room as we would get close to Christmas vacation. And I think maybe Easter break too. And somebody reminded me we'd have rolls of toilet paper in the dorm, and we would put the days left until vacation, dates on each square, and then rip off a square until we got to the day. But this was our favorite, one of our favorites, pre-vacation song.
Since evolved, but
Oh yeah, if you know it, join in. We think there are more verses, but we have the OLD syndrome, and we're not sure.
I'm here for my 50th. My daughter is out in the audience for her 25th.